The job for the next Archbishop of Canterbury is going to be huge. But what are the Catholics saying about this? Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Rev Dan. I'm a vicar in the Church of England. On this channel, you get all my views as a parish priest on all the Christian news happening in the world today. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, comment down below, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Subscribe to my Substack, where I put extra content out over there. After the resignation of Justin Welby earlier this month, we know next year we will be getting a new Archbishop of Canterbury. The future of the Church of England, well, what will that be? Well, I've done a video about that. You can watch that here. But the next Archbishop of Canterbury has got a huge job on their hands to navigate them through not only the divides over the prayers of love and faith, of the blessings of same-sex couples, but also the safeguarding crisis in the Church of England, which just hasn't been going on since the Macon report, but has been going on quite a long time as well. And there's a lot of other things. The Church is very divided at the moment. And now, since the Macon report has come out, there seems to be a divide between the local parish churches who are doing really good jobs and working really hard, and a lot of precious financial conditions, less volunteers now. It's a lot of churches without clergy, actually. And the hierarchy in the Church of England, that there's a divide. I watched the Channel 4 News the other night, talking again about the Macon report and the fallout, and other senior leaders should be stepping back. And you kind of just thought, well, I was thinking, this is so different to what's happening on the ground. This is like them at there, as it were. But what we have to remember when I say them at there, the church is not vertical, it's horizontal. The Archbishop of Canterbury post is no more important than a person training in the Church of England, a curate. We all are called to different roles. They are not above us. That's the role that they do. Say that's the role that God has called them to do, if it wasn't so political sometimes. So whether you're a curate, you're a priest, you're an archdeacon, you're a bishop, you're one of the archbishops, we work as equals, and it's not hierarchical. But it does feel like that. You've got the national church and the local church. And so, maybe, God works good things out of these terribly bad situations. And this disconnect between the national church and the local church is another thing to be addressed. Anyway, so I was looking around for stories, seeing what's going on. Usually I do Rev Dan's Roundup on a Friday, but I tell you what, since the Macon reports come out and the Archbishop of Canterbury's resigned, there's not as many stories out there. There are some stories coming back, but it is quite quiet on that front to make a video worth watching. But it will come back. Don't worry about that. Rev Dan's Roundup will be back soon. But I did find this article on, it's a European, I guess, La Cruz International, which is a Catholic website. I don't know if maybe they do a paper as well. But they say, after Archbishop Welby's resignation, many challenges face the Church of England. And I thought this was quite interesting because this is, another denomination looking into the Church of England and from their perspective. So they say that at the November 12th resignation, Archbishop Justin Welby of Canterbury, with his official duties ending on the 6th of January 2025, leaves his successor with significant challenges for the Anglican Church. And that's absolutely right, as I stated. And there's probably many more challenges. The local churches and dioceses as well are running out of money. We have less people coming to church. That means less money given. Not being able to pay parish share to the diocese means they get less money. And also the local church having less money for missional work and even the upkeep of the church. And so the diocese are running out of money. That means they can't pay for priests. There's less priests coming through. This is just all over the place. And with the data coming out of congregation attendance, that's people in and people leaving, saying the Church of England, I covered this in a video last year, you can watch that here, the Church of England will be extinct by 2060. That's being extinct. The problems start actually quite soon. There'll be a critical mass when you get to those numbers where the church will not be able to be in such a large institution, be able to really support itself. So there are 42 dioceses, they're all independent from each other, and some dioceses have got some money, some dioceses haven't. But there's also the National Church of England, which has, up to £10 billion in savings and investments. But we at the local church do not see that money. We can apply for grants and things like that, but nothing that will help us, and in many cases make a positive budget each year. There's a deficit budget in so many churches and so much fundraising going on, and that fundraising is at the expense of missional work and getting the gospel out. So there is, like I say, there's a huge problems going on. The national church and the local church seems so disconnected. And so the next Archbishop of Canterbury will have a job on their hands. So let's see what the Catholics are saying in this article. For most members of the Anglican clergy, except perhaps a few bishops eyeing the top role, being Archbishop of Canterbury is often considered an impossible job. Succeeding Archbishop Justin Welby is unlikely to be an exception. And absolutely right. It's a hard job. You're going to get battered anyway. Even before, it's people wanted an evangelical as an archbishop, then others wanted an Anglican as an archbishop, and that's before all these other things coming in. So, just on those two things, that's what historically. But now people want an orthodox archbishop who believes that holds the doctrine of the Bible. Others want a liberal who will eventually introduce same-sex marriage. There's many different things coming in. We need an archbishop, well, I would say, who would unite. But I think, as I said many times, I don't think we can unite. As much as they want the Church of England to stay together, we cannot have two different doctrines in the Church of England. Those who don't want same-sex marriage and those who do want same-sex marriage. Those who don't want same-sex blessings, those who do want same-sex blessings. Those who don't believe that clergy can enter into same-sex civil marriages, and those who do believe that clergy can enter into same-sex civil marriages. Lots of words there. And believe these are doctrinal issues as well, salvational issues, first order issues. So how would you have an Archbishop of Canterbury to unite those two fractions? The Liberals want to stay as one church, and the Orthodox are saying, well, actually, we can't if we believe two different doctrines. So that's the Archbishop coming in and being the head of that church again. But with the Archbishop being so disconnected, how will the Archbishop come and connect with the local church from the national church once again? Big job. And so it is an impossible job. They go on. Pressure by public opinion and segments of his own clergy following the revelations of mishandling cases of physical and sexual abuse committed by John Smythe, a layman working with youth who died in 2018. The Archbishop of Canterbury has stepped down on 12th of November. He will continue his official representational duties until 6th of January 2025 before handing over to the Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell, the second most senior Anglican cleric. And we keep your eye out for that, because there's pressure on the Archbishop of York, again related to safeguarding and not handling reports. And that's what I spoke about in the just before in the Channel 4 news segment, calling for him, people calling for him to be stepped down or to be investigated. So will the Archbishop of York even make it to January the 6th? We'll have to wait and see. If he does, he will look after the province of Canterbury. There's two provinces of York up north and province of Canterbury, and he will look after that until we get a new Archbishop of Canterbury. As the first Archbishop of Canterbury forced to resign, Welby leaves its successor with numerous crises and a Church of England in turmoil. The Macon report, which led to Welby's departure, exposed the culture of silence within the Anglican Episcopate concerning sexual abuse and established this issue as a central and urgent challenge for the next leader of the Church of England. This is despite significant measures implemented in recent years, including parish-level safeguarding officers and mandatory training for lay people and clergy working with youth. And as I've always said, the work of safeguarding and the local level is since I've been in the Church of England, has been really good. Each diocese might do it slightly differently with the systems they use, but it's a really high standard. And we put a lot of work in. It does feel onerous, but we're doing it for the right reasons. But it does feel like if you get it wrong, you are in trouble. It's not nice to be the head of safeguarding in your local church, because you're worried that if a safeguarding incident has happened and you haven't got everything right, because you can put all the things in place. These people are sneaky and they will try to get round. You can make it as robust as you can. And even in those circumstances, people will always find ways that, did I get everything right? Did I dot the I's and cross the T's? And did we make it a safe place? And it does feel that if you don't get it right and something happens, that's it. You're responsible. Well, you are responsible, but there is a pressure. And so the safeguarding at the local level is, as I said, very good, and but it also puts people off at the same time. There's a lot of work goes in for the volunteers on the safeguarding side as well. Again, rightly so, but some of the people who are more elderly now just haven't got the time or inclination or the expertise to do this stuff online, and so they can say, look, we're not going to do it. That's probably a small minority, but it is there. It does add to the pressures in the local church. But safeguarding now is the big issue for the whole church. But it does seem like the national church and the local church, there is a disconnect, and the safeguarding now has to be established in the national church as well as it is at the local level. And because it just feels sometimes it's like we don't want to get tarnished with the same brush, because we have put so much work into safeguarding. And I know all the safeguarding stuff that's coming out with the Making Report is historical, and things again in the national church have moved forward a lot as well. But it needs to be the whole church recognised nationally and locally are doing well for this, and that's one of the things that they have to do. Remember at General Synod last year, the independent safeguarding panel was sacked, and there was a lot of fallout. That the survivors of abuse are really, you only have to go on X, Twitter, and they speak out very vocally about how they're being let down, and we must get that right, and they'll be the measure when they're happy, we're getting it right. And at the moment, it isn't being get right. And also the thing it says in here that there's a culture of silence within the Anglican Episcopate. And we saw that when the Making Report came out. Only one bishop, the Bishop of Newcastle, Helen and Hartley, spoke out and called for Welby's resignation. Nobody else really spoke out at all. And there's that question, why are people not speaking out? Are they either being silenced? Some people not speaking out because they're seeing what's happening and thinking, I could be Archbishop one day. That won't be too many people, but there were a lot of concerns about why so many bishops were silent at that time. And we need to have a church which is more open, especially with the House of Bishops. Again, the trust in General Synod between the House of Bishops, the House of Clergy, House of Laity has been eroded with the Living and Loving Faith process, and what they've said is secret meetings and documents that haven't been shown to the other two houses. And at the last General Synod in July, they talked about trust. That's how bad it was. They talked about trust. It was an important subject to speak about, and that's one thing that the next Archbishop of Canterbury has to deal with, is about trust as well. So much to build up on and get right. So they say the urgent need to combat sexual abuse. This investigation revealed the number of people who were aware of the abuses committed by John Smythe at Christian summer camps, explained Remy Bethmont, a professor at Parish 8 University. and an expert on Anglicanism. But it's not entirely surprising. Welby's resignation underscores the need for cultural change within the Episcopate, requiring a credible Archbishop to lead the charge. It also compels the entire hierarchy to act. So there's 130 bishops. So you've got what they call the ordinary, the diocesan bishop, or diocesan bishop, shall I say, learning the word properly, and suffragan bishops, so assistant bishops that help them in their diocese, in archdeaconries and areas, so work is split. So you've got what they call a college of bishops, which is huge, and then you've got the house of bishops, which are mainly, like I said, the ordinaries, the diocesan bishops. And what they're saying, looking in from this Remy Bethmont, it's saying there needs to be a change of culture within the Episcopate, requiring a credible Archbishop to lead the charge. It also compels the entire hierarchy to act. So we have to see a house of bishops and bishops in local areas really changing, being willing to change in that, and really getting to the point of bringing back trust in the General Synod, and also feeling able to speak out on issues. I think everyone should have the right to speak out on issues. Yeah, I'm on here on YouTube speaking out from my point of view. I have no problem with another priest in the Church of England who has the complete opposite point of view having a channel where they speak out. That's the freedom of speech and the right to speech without comeback. We're not calling people out or attacking them individually. We will be commenting on news stories. That's why I pause. We're not calling them out now. Not calling people out and attacking them. We're talking about the news stories in which they are involved in. But we're not going after them, and that's such an important point that we won't do. If you're involved in a news story, then it will be commented upon. But that's right to be able to do that. So the bishop should have that right as well. Yes, I get their jobs are as bishops, so there's a bit more politics perhaps there, but that's probably what the reform and the cultural change needs. The stakes are even higher, as Welby's resignation may be the first domino to fall after the Macon report. Calls for resignation have already been targeted the Archbishop of York, accused of lesser but similar failures in addressing sexual abuse cases. Other prominent figures still in office are implicated in the report to varying degrees, including Stephen Conway, then Bishop of Ely, Paul Butler, Bishop of Durham, and Martin Seeley, Bishop of St Edmundsbury and Ipswich. William Nye, the General Secretary of the Archbishop of Canterbury's Council and the Church's General Synod, has also faced accusations of inaction regarding abuse over the past decade. And so this is the other thing. With the Channel 4 News regularly doing stories about this on their 7 o'clock news, and a lot of people watching them, and it's being picked up in the papers as well. It's not a good look for the Church of England at all. It's not a good look for the local parish where we're trying to just get on with our roles. And someone was saying this to me the other day. They said, I know that the good work of the local church will never get into the papers, not even the local papers. Sometimes it might, but the everyday work that we do, all the good things. But this national stuff that's going on, they were saying, it's just really not a good look for us. It makes our work harder in one way or another. And there are calls for those who are named in a negative way in the Macon report and other safeguarding instances to step back while investigations happen. And so for junior clergy, they would say junior, senior. Well, like I say, we don't have hierarchy. But for clergy who had permission to officiate, so they weren't leading a church, have stepped back from their duties while this continues, but none of the bishops have. And so, of course, it's going to make the news and the news stories, but that, again, it doesn't look good. Why are the local clergy or the people helping out in churches stepping back, but not the bishops or anyone in leadership? What is going on? It doesn't look good. And this is all coming up to the Christmas period, and this is the context of the conversation I was having with the person. What's going to be the knock-on effect for those people who are not Christian who come to church over the Christmas period? Will they go, you know what, that Church of England, it's not safe. It's all in the news. It's all negative. Why would I want to go there? And so we could see, I don't know, this is part of the conversation as we're speculating. Will there be a drop in attendance this Christmas because of all this going on and all the negative press? Again, coming back to this article, and this is what the Archbishop of Canterbury, the new one, is that the leader of the Church of England will have to work through and restore over the coming years of what we are all about. In all these, and you're not going to get them in there in the news stories, but we're about Jesus Christ. We're about the saving grace of God, sending his only son to die for us on the cross for our sins. It feels so very far away from that, all these things that are said in the stories. It just, you read the Bible and you think about these things, and these are so disconnected in one way or another. We're losing in the public's mind eye what we are truly about, and this narrative is coming in, and the Church of England at the moment is currently seen as a place where it's not safe, bad safeguarding, so bad that the Archbishop of Canterbury has had to resign. It's in chaos, it's split, where actually we're united in Christ, and we're here to preach the gospel. Welby's successor will be facing mounting pressure to impose accountability. The Church acts both judge and defendant in its own tribunal, noted Stephen Bates, former religious affairs correspondent for The Guardian. Now, many are demanding the creation of an independent tribunal to handle safeguarding issues, with external experts granted full autonomy. Now, the Church is quite split over this. We can't do safeguarding ourselves. This is where I stand. We've not done it well, and if you've got a bishop who hasn't handled a safeguarding complaint well, and the safeguarding department's just down the corridor from their office, and they have lunch every so often, they see each other, it makes it quite complicated. It needs to be slightly removed to go to that bishop and say, now we're going to investigate you and you need to be suspended. But that's why it needs to be independent, so everyone gets a fair trial. Everyone, if they have to go for an investigation, it will be, we know it's truly independent, whether it's a local clergy, it's an archdeacon, it's a bishop. But, and this is where we have to be careful, they have to know Christianity, so they have to be Christians, because they got to know the Christian faith. They got to know things where we talk about spiritual abuse, what that is. It's very hard for a secular safeguarding body to be able to understand those issues without truly knowing the Christian faith. And so I would say it needs to be independent, but an independent Christian body. Now that makes it more difficult, yes, but we can't just say we'll keep it in-house and we keep doing it ourselves. It's not quite working at the moment, and so we need to create an independent body, but it needs to know the Christian faith to be able to do that. It also helps those. Safeguarding, sadly, has been weaponized against people in the church and used to come after them or get them out. By creating an independent body, that would lessen that, because they will be able to say, this is not a true accusation and this is being used as a weapon against this person. So I'm actually all for independence, but the trouble is how do we ensure that in the secular world, if you're creating something like this, that they are a Christian organisation? Because you could do that within the church, because you could stipulate they have to have the Christian faith. But if you're saying it needs to be independent, then you get involved in the secular laws. But that's not for me to work out. It's only for me to say. So the Church of England's credibility is on the line. Continued inaction risks accelerating an already advanced secularization process. Baptisms and priestly organisations are plummeting in the UK, although weekly church attendance has seen a slight uptick in the past 2 years, rising from approximately 608,000 in 2021 to 684,000 in 2023. It remains half of the 1.2 million figure recorded in the early 2000s. And yes, absolutely, there was a slight recovery after COVID, but we're still down from the 2019 figures. And so slight celebration, yes, but we have not recovered to where the figures were in 2019. In fact, we want the church to grow. We want to be at the point where we are above the figures in 2019, 2018, 2017, even above the figures in the early 2000s. That's the celebration. A recovery after everybody left the church, or the church were closed so people couldn't come. Yeah, well, I would say you would expect that, but it's not a massive recovery, and it's not the reality that we still haven't reached the 2019 figures. So there is that. Baptisms are down. Priestly ordinations are down. That's partly, again, due to the LLF process. People are not coming through. We're heading, like I said, to a point of no return, a critical mass. And if we don't get priests in, there's not going to be local priests in the local church. And that's going to be, most churches, when they haven't got a priest, statistically will decline in numbers. And so there's power in having a local parish priest. So there's that to add to their plate as well. And so they go on blessing same-sex couples. Alongside the crisis of trust are internal divisions among clergy and lay people. Chief among the challenges awaiting the next Archbishop of Canterbury is the contentious issue of blessing the same-sex couples. The liturgy has been drafted but cannot yet be used, as it must not contradict marriage doctrine, explained Bethmont, which failed to gain sufficient support for an amendment at the General Synod. And I've talked about this a lot. So it's at the moment, it can be used within a service at on a Sunday during the prayers. People can come up and they can have a blessing over their same-sex union, but people want a standalone service. That probably isn't now coming in to July, but there's still so much work to be done, because he's right. It is talk about, is it in any way contradicting the marriage doctrine of marriage, and the Faith and Order Commission are seeing that. If you want to know how big an issue this really is, my bishop, the Bishop of Oxford, Stephen Croft, came to my deanery for a visit, and he visited the clergy, and then in the evenings the PCC. I went to both meetings, and it was dominated, like 85-90% of the questions were both meetings were about the living in love of the faith process. The Archbishop of Canterbury had resigned just like a week before, and there wasn't any talk about that. It was the first time an archbishop's resigned in the Protestant Church of England, and there was no talk of that. It was all about same-sex blessings, and this is a huge thing. And one of the things with the next Archbishop of Canterbury is, where do you stand on this? And we will wait and see to how that goes. Subscribe to the channel, because I'll definitely be following that and doing some videos. According to Bethmont, conservative evangelicals opposed to this move may sue priests who use the liturgy or bishops who authorise it, arguing that it effectively alters marriage doctrine. They are demanding a degree of separation from liberal bishops on this issue. The challenge will be finding an institutional formula that satisfies evangelicals by providing them a protective space against what they view as heresy without undermining the broader church. This is the greatest institutional challenge the Church of England has faced since the ordination of women. So they are looking for the outside in. The conservative evangelicals won't sue priests. That was something spoke about quite early on. If they are, will this go and be challenged in court? If someone does this and they're breaking the canon law, and or bishops who authorise it, is this a legal test that can be used to stop? And this is why the House of Bishops have been navigating a way around this to make sure that doesn't happen, by commending the prayers to be used in the way in which they are. But yes, it was spoken about, and that shows the strength of feeling. As I just said, when the bishop came to our deanery, everybody was just asking questions about LLF. The way that the next Archbishop of Canterbury tries to bring the two different sides. Well, there are three, and they said this. Bishop Martin Snow, the lead Bishop of LLF. There's those who don't want the blessings, those who do want the blessings, and those in the middle who are undecided or undeclared. And so there are three, and how do you hold those in a church? So he said, Bethmont says here, they are demanding a degree of separation from liberal bishops on this issue. But it's not really a degree of separation now, it is separation, saying, look, we can't be in communion with you anymore, but we're not the ones who are changing the doctrine, so we're not the ones to, in a sense, leave. If you want to continue with this, you create your own structures for you to work out of, because we're continuing the Church of England and the doctrine as we have received it since the inception of the Church of England on this issue of marriage and sex and where sex lies. And so what we're saying is, no, you create. We're fine as we are. We're just carry on. We'll keep on going. So there is that, but it's not a degree of separation. I think the degree of separation is what the liberals are saying. We want to stay together as one, but we'll have a degree of separation, and we're waiting truly to find out what that is. They're working through it again, but it is not what we are calling for. So there are strong feelings, and as they say in this article, this is the greatest institutional challenge that the Church of England has faced since the ordination of women. Well, I would say that's the greatest institutional challenge this has faced. Well, maybe since the ordination of women, but it's huge at the moment. It's absolutely huge, and it won't go away, and it has to be resolved. And if it isn't resolved, the alliance will create, and it wants to stay in the Church of England, and you have to understand this. All of those who are Orthodox want the Church of England to thrive. We want to stay in the Church of England. We don't want to leave the Church of England. We feel the Church of England is leaving us in the way that it's going in the liberalisation. But the alliance will create a de facto province and do things as much as they can in a way which will enable people to stay in the Church of England and work in the Church of England without having to leave. And is it perfect? No, it's not going to be perfect. But I tell you what, so many people are staying in because the alliance, and I've spoken to a lot of people about this and what they're trying to do. And if we didn't have the alliance, the Church of England will be in a bigger crisis sooner if a lot of people left. Because the churches that are growing are the ones who uphold the Bible and the doctrines of the Church of England. So fragile unity. In recent months, more voices within the evangelical wing have opposed same-sex blessings, calling for an autonomous province. Shortly before his resignation, Welby faced criticism after stating that sexual relations within a committed relationship, whether heterosexual or homosexual, are not sinful. Keeping the church united and moving in the same direction will be difficult, predicted Stephen Bates. Some factions of the clergy will not accept an archbishop from another theological tradition. These disputes have undermined the work of the last 2 or 3 archbishops. A further divide within the clergy emerged during Welby's tenure between the evangelical wing, his own tradition, and the Anglo-Catholics, more traditional, with greater emphasis on liturgy and sacraments. The actually never have the Anglo-Catholics and the evangelicals been so closely aligned. I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago in Oxford for the Alliance, where it was an evangelical meeting, but there were Anglo-Catholics there. We have never been so closely aligned because of this, and that's a good thing that's come out of the LLF process. Not accepting an archbishop from another theological tradition, that's going to be really difficult. It's going to be really difficult. A lot of dioceses now, if the ordinary, the bishop is liberal, what they are doing is to appoint a suffragan bishop who is Orthodox. And this creates problems as well, because they're saying, look, you now got an Orthodox bishop, and it says yes, but they're an assistant bishop, a suffragan bishop. You're still the first bishop, the ordinary, the diocesan bishop, and so if you didn't have suffragans, you would still be under our bishop. So they are our bishop. They're the ones who we swear allegiance to, their office. And so having a suffragan who is Orthodox, and we've just got this in my archdeaconry in Buckingham in the Diocese of Oxford, who's a really good guy, and he's got such a hard job because there are those who are Orthodox saying it's really good that we got this new suffragan bishop who is Orthodox and it is really well liked, but it's still a matter of fact that the diocesan bishop is liberal on these views. And so as good as this is, things still really haven't changed. And that will be the same with the Archbishop of Canterbury. We would want an Orthodox Archbishop, and the Liberals will want, obviously, a liberal Archbishop. And so the divide is there. It's going to be a huge job. And it's not now you can find someone who's in the middle on all this, who will please both sides. You won't please both sides, because this is the problem. It's like with the new bishop in Buckingham coming in. The Liberals, some Liberals will be happy with him because they know him, they like him. Some will not be happy with him being appointed. And in Reading, they had a Liberal bishop appointed, and so it'd be a vice versa there. And can the clergy and the parishes from Reading now align with the bishop of Buckingham, and vice versa? Those ones who are in Buckingham who are liberal, who can't accept the authority of the bishop because he's Orthodox, look to the Bishop of Reading. It gets absolutely messy, and this is where we are. The new Archbishop has to find a way through. Who wants this job, huh? Who wants that job? So, secularization and institutional reforms. To counteract secularization, church reforms has focused on resource churches, often evangelical congregations, emphasising numerical growth, sometimes at the expense of traditional parish life. The managerial trajectory adopted by the Church of England has not been universally well received, observed Beth Moth, who described these tensions as part of the Church's Anglican DNA. Internal pluralism inevitably leads to the profound and sometimes violent disagreements. In reality, Welby had a largely pacifying influence despite the crisis. So, this is true. We are the Church of England. We work on a parochial system that really, even in modern day, has slightly changed and doesn't work. People are not so aware of that now. Some people still understand the parish, but a lot of people coming in who are so far away don't understand that, and so people will travel to large evangelical churches across many parish boundaries, to be honest, to get to that church because that's the church they like, or that's the church that is growing, is vibrant, and all these things. And so the local parishes are losing people going to those churches. So that happens. That's the reality of church life. We can lament that. You know, I'm in a small local church, and we do get people coming to our church, and then I'll hear in a few weeks' time they've gone to one of the bigger churches near us. Is it annoying? Yeah, but let's celebrate that they are going to church, and let's get right what we are doing right. There are advantages to being small local parish churches that offer those who want that something that the larger churches can't. So we just have to up our game in what we do in our own identity. Let them do what they do, and what we do, we will do. And so that's just the way of the world. So here, there are tensions in one way or another, but it's how we overcome them rather than anything. But he says the managerial trajectory adopted by the Church of England is right. You know, I agree with that. It does feel very like a company, very managerial now, and the power used to be in the local parish, the local church, but it's not anymore. it doesn't feel like that. It feels like the power is in the national church and not the local church. It was never like that. It was not like that at all, but it has become like that, and it's become very much about money. And we see that in local churches. If their vicar goes and the local parish can't pay their full parish share, they'll get what they can pay for. So if they can only afford half a vicar, they'll get half a vicar. And it doesn't matter about the context, how many thousands of people that church has in their parish. It's about what they can pay for, which is very misguided, actually. And I don't agree with them, I said before. So they go on. And remember, this is a Catholic church, Catholic's paper writing this, so they are seeing it from that Catholic point of view. Traditional parishes feel neglected by the Episcopate, said Jane Stance, former head of ecumenism within the United Protestant Church of France, and still in active dialogue with Anglicans. Still in active dialogue. I'm still speaking to you. Apart from all your problems, I'm still speaking to you. For the English pastor, the current situation of the Church of England will require the next occupant of Lambeth Palace to undertake significant pastoral work to heal wounds and restore trust. It will be very time-consuming, she said, and this work will need to be carried out in a context of financial crisis and re-evaluation of the Church of England's role within the state. And that is right. There is a lot of pastoral work to do in that way, but do we need an archbishop who is a pastoral-hearted leader, or we need someone to lead us through this crisis, to take the Church of England back to the gospel, to reform the Church of England into what it once was? That's what we need. Yes, they need to be pastoral and understanding to go through that, but we need a leader, a proper leader who will have a vision of bringing the whole church. And again, this would be the dream, blue sky thinking, bringing the church to what we are called to be, standing upon the authority of the Bible. But the church doesn't have that now. There are many clergy and churches and bishops who interpret the Bible very differently now, and there are a lot of us who absolutely disagree on that interpretation, and they will disagree with us on our interpretation. So to bring the Church of England back, the question is it too far down the line? And most likely the answer is yes. Is there good work that can do for the right person? Yes. This appointment needs to be not a political appointment. It needs to be a God-ordained appointment through prayer and fasting and seeking the will of God, following the guidance of the Holy Spirit to get the right person in. But like I said before, if it's an Orthodox, the Liberals won't like it. If it's a Liberal, the Orthodox won't like it. It's, in a sense, going to be hard from the start, from the outset. And it will be time-consuming, and they say, and this work will need to be carried out in the context of financial crisis and the re-evaluation of the Church of England's role within the state, because in that TV news segment from Channel 4, they were calling for the Church of England bishops to not be in the House of Lords anymore. And some will say they don't need to be there, but I think, if we stand on the teachings of Christ, we need to be that moral voice within the government, within the House of Lords, standing up for what we believe and for the rights of the poor and the marginalised, and not be there for the political reasons, but be there for that moral voice. And if we haven't earned that, as it were, if people are calling for us to get rid of the Lord Spiritual because they're not seen as anything good or adding any value, then there's a problem. And that, as they say, that needs to be addressed as well. So this article, they kind of written and got things right, which I absolutely agree with. Some things, is kind of looking in and trying to work out what's going on from a different perspective. So we forgive them for that. But they are right. The next Archbishop of Canterbury has got a massive job on their hands. And I think even from the day they announced, it's going to be, whichever side they are on, hard.